Here's a number that should make you uncomfortable. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 35 to 44 is roughly $45,000. For 45 to 54, it's about $115,000. That means the average American doesn't cross the $100,000 mark until somewhere in their mid 40s, and a huge percentage never cross it at all. These aren't lazy people. These aren't unintelligent people. Many of them earn decent salaries, know they should be saving more, and genuinely want to build wealth. And yet, decade after decade, the number stays stuck. Why? What is it about $100,000 that makes it such an impossibly high wall for most people? And more importantly, what do the people who do cross it know that everyone else doesn't? Because here's the thing that changed how I think about this: the barrier to $100,000 isn't income, it's not even discipline. It's a set of five specific traps: structural, behavioral, and psychological, that the average American falls into without even knowing they exist. And once you can see them, you can navigate around every single one. The people who reach $100,000 in their 20s or early 30s aren't superhuman. They just avoided the traps that caught everyone else. My name is Max, and I want to help you learn how to make your money work more for you in your life. This channel is about understanding the real mechanics of why people get stuck and how to get unstuck. Not motivation, but actual structural analysis and solutions. If that's your thing, subscribe, because this is what we do here every week. So here's the conventional explanation for why most people don't have $100,000 saved. They don't earn enough. And on the surface, it sounds right. The median household income in America is about $75,000. After taxes, health insurance, and basic expenses, there's not much left. So the conclusion seems obvious. The problem is income. But that explanation falls apart when you look at the data more closely. Households earning $100,000 to $150,000 per year have median retirement savings of about $67,000. That's high earners with mediocre savings. Meanwhile, some people earning $50,000 to $60,000 have crossed $100,000 by their mid-30s. Same economy, same decade, radically different outcomes. The variable isn't income, it's behavior. Specifically, 5 behavioral patterns that act as invisible walls between most Americans and the $100,000 mark. Let me explain the overall dynamic with an analogy before I unpack each wall. Imagine a river flowing toward a reservoir. The river is your income. The reservoir is your invested savings. And between the river and the reservoir are 5 dams, each one diverting water away from the reservoir before it can get there. Some dams are obvious. Some are hidden. But together, they reduce the flow to a trickle. And no matter how strong the river is, no matter how much you earn, if the 5 dams are in place, the reservoir never fills. The people who reach $100,000 didn't necessarily have a bigger river. They removed the dams. And that's exactly what I'm going to help you do. But here's where it gets really interesting. Let me walk you through all 5. Dam number 1, the payment lifestyle. This is the most expensive trap in American life. And it's so normalized that most people don't even see it as a trap. The average American has $580 in car payments, $1,050 in student loan payments scaled over time, $200 in credit card minimums, and various other recurring obligations that consume 30 to 40% of their take-home pay before they've spent a dollar on rent, food, or anything else. They're paying for the past before they can invest in the future. The payment lifestyle doesn't feel like a trap because everyone around you is in it. Your friends have car payments. Your parents had car payments. The financial system is designed around monthly payments because they maximize what you'll spend and minimize what you'll notice. But every dollar going to a payment is a dollar that isn't compounding. And the compounding cost of the payment lifestyle over a career is genuinely staggering. If the average American redirected just their car payment, $580 per month, into investments at 8%, they'd have approximately $106,000 in 10 years. Just the car payment. One line item. That's why the payment lifestyle is dam number 1. It alone is enough to prevent most people from ever reaching $100,000. And here's what makes this dam so destructive. Payments feel productive. You're paying off something. You're making progress on a balance, but you're making progress toward zero, not toward wealth. Every payment brings you closer to owning a depreciating asset or completing a loan, but it brings you no closer to financial independence. It's movement without direction, activity without accumulation, and because it feels like you're doing something responsible, your brain gives you credit for the effort, even though the effort is building nothing. Dam number 2, the savings account plateau. Most Americans who do save put their money in a savings account, and savings accounts feel safe. The number goes up. It doesn't go down. There's no volatility, no risk. But there's also essentially no growth. A savings account earning 4 to 5% in a high yield account barely keeps pace with inflation, and a regular savings account earning 0.5%. Your money is actually losing purchasing power every year. The savings account plateau catches people because they confuse saving with building wealth. Saving is putting money aside. Building wealth is putting money to work. And there's a massive difference. $500 a month in a savings account for 20 years at 0.5% gives you about $126,000 almost entirely your own contributions. The same $500 a month in an index fund at 8% gives you about $295,000. The gap, $169,000, is the price of the savings account plateau. It's the wealth you never built because your money was parked instead of deployed. The psychology here is loss aversion, your brain's tendency to fear losses. More than it values gains, investing feels risky because the balance can go down. Savings feels safe because the balance only goes up. But the safety of savings is an illusion. You're safe from volatility, but you're exposed to a far more dangerous risk. The risk of never building enough wealth to be financially independent. And that risk is virtually guaranteed in a savings account. Dam number 3, lifestyle inflation. This is the one that catches high earners. You get a raise. Your expenses increase. You get another raise. Expenses increase again. Your lifestyle expands to consume your income no matter how much you earn. And the surplus, the gap between income and expenses that should be feeding your investments, stays flat or shrinks. Research from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that consumer spending increases almost in lockstep with income. Households earning $50,000 spend about $47,000. Households earning $100,000 spend about $88,000. Households earning $150,000 spend about $118,000. The savings rate barely changes across income levels. People don't earn their way to $100,000. They have to deliberately break the link between income and spending, and most never do. The psychological mechanism is hedonic adaptation, the tendency to adjust to improvements and return to a baseline level of satisfaction. The nicer apartment feels amazing for a month. Then it's just your apartment. The new car feels luxurious for a few weeks. Then it's just your car. But the higher payments persist long after the pleasure fades. You're paying for an experience that's already over. Dam number 4, financial complexity avoidance. The American financial system is genuinely confusing. 401k, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, HSA, brokerage accounts, index funds, target date funds, expense ratios, tax implications. The sheer volume of information paralyzes people. And when people are paralyzed, they default to the easiest option. Do nothing. Or do the minimum. Contribute enough to a 401k to get the employer match and stop there. Researchers call this the paradox of choice. The finding that too many options leads to worse decisions or no decision at all. And in personal finance, the paradox of choice is particularly devastating because the cost of inaction compounds over time. Every month you spend figuring it out is a month your money isn't growing. The fix is radical simplicity. You need exactly 3 things to break through. $100,000, one investment account, a Roth IRA or your employer's 401k, one investment, a total stock market index fund, and one automated transfer, a fixed amount every month, set it and forget it. That's the entire system. 3 decisions made once that run forever. Everything else, The optimization, the tax strategies, the account diversification can come later. Right now, the enemy isn't imperfection, it's inaction. Dam number 5, the identity ceiling. This is the most insidious dam because it's invisible. Most Americans grow up in households where $100,000 in savings was never discussed because it was never achieved. Their parents didn't have it. Their friends' parents didn't have it. And so the brain files $100,000 under other people's money, a number that belongs to someone else's life, not yours. Psychologists call this social reference points, the tendency to set your expectations and goals based on the people around you. If nobody in your social circle has $100,000 saved, your brain literally can't visualize it for you. It's not a goal you're failing to reach. It's a goal you were never psychologically equipped to pursue. Breaking the identity ceiling requires exposure to new reference points, which is partly why you're watching this video, and the lived experience of compounding progress. Every $10,000 milestone you hit expands what your brain considers possible. $10,000 proves you can save. $25,000 proves you can invest. $50,000 proves you can sustain it. And $75,000 proves that the system works without heroic effort. By the time you approach $100,000, your brain has enough evidence to believe it belongs to you. I know you may be thinking, I don't have an identity ceiling, I just don't have enough money. But consider this. If someone offered you a guaranteed, risk-free path to $100,000 that required exactly what you're already earning and nothing more, would you feel excited or would you feel skeptical? If your first reaction was skepticism, there must be a catch. That's the identity ceiling talking. Your brain is protecting you from disappointment by pre-rejecting a goal it doesn't believe is yours. And that pre-rejection is the dam. It prevents you from building the systems that would prove it wrong. Now let me show you the math of what happens when you remove all 5 dams simultaneously. Let's say you eliminate the car payment and redirect $580 a month to investments. You move your savings from a savings account to an index fund. You freeze your lifestyle at its current level, despite a raise. You set up one Roth IRA with one index fund and one automated transfer. And you start believing this number belongs to you. $580 a month at 8% average annual returns. After 1 year, about $7,230. After 3 years, roughly $24,100. After 5 years, approximately $42,800. After 7 years, about $67,200. And after roughly 8.5 years, call it 9, you cross $100,000. 9 years, from $0 to $100,000 on a single redirected car payment. And here's the acceleration that makes this even better. The first $50,000 took about 5.5 years. The second $50,000 took only about 3.5 years. The third $100,000, going from $100,000 to $200,000, will take roughly 4 years. And from $200,000 to $300,000, about 3 years. Every milestone arrives faster. The dams were the only thing slowing the river down. And this is the part most people miss. The person who reaches $100,000 by removing the 5 dams didn't just build a portfolio. They built a completely new relationship with money, work, and themselves. They learned that payments are optional, that investing isn't scary, that lifestyle inflation is a choice, not an inevitability, that simplicity beats complexity, and that $100,000 isn't other people's money, it's theirs. That identity upgrade is permanent, and it drives every financial decision from this point forward with a fundamentally different orientation, toward growth rather than consumption, toward building rather than spending, toward the future rather than the present. Here's something that surprised me when I started researching this. People who cross $100,000 almost never go back below it. Not because they're lucky or because the market always cooperates, but because the habits and identity are so deeply embedded by that point that financial regression becomes psychologically almost impossible. You've spent years building systems, resisting inflation, automating investments, That infrastructure doesn't disappear when the market dips or an emergency hits. It's structural, and structural changes persist in a way that one-time decisions don't. You're probably wondering what crossing $100,000 actually changes in daily life. The scenarios are dramatic. Your employer announces layoffs. At $100,000 invested, you have roughly 2 years of living expenses. You can navigate the transition strategically, negotiate severance, and take time to find the right next role rather than the first one. The person without savings takes the first offer at $10,000 below market rate because they can't afford to wait. A recession hits and the market drops 30%. Your $100,000 becomes $70,000 on paper. But you've been through corrections before. You hold. You increase contributions because prices are lower. 2 years later, you're at $130,000. The person who panicked at $70,000 sold at the bottom and is still trying to figure out when to get back in. An investment opportunity appears. A colleague's startup, a rental property, a business venture. At $100,000, you can participate without jeopardizing your financial security. You evaluate the opportunity on its merits, not on whether you can afford to try. That access to opportunities, repeated over a decade, is worth far more than the portfolio itself, and the career effects compound on everything else. At $100,000, you have what I'd call full walkaway power. You can leave any job at any time for any reason and sustain yourself for a year or more while you find something better. That power, even if you never exercise it, transforms how you work. You take creative risks. You advocate for yourself. You say no to things that waste your time. And you negotiate compensation with the quiet authority of someone who genuinely doesn't need the specific paycheck. The research backs this up. Employees with higher financial security consistently rate higher on performance metrics, take more initiative, and advance faster. Not because money made them smarter, but because financial stress was no longer draining the cognitive resources they needed to excel. Now, here's the warning. The biggest threat after crossing $100,000 isn't external, it's you. Specifically, it's the belief that you've made it, that $100,000 is the finish line. It's not. It's the starting line. Everything before $100,000 was building the engine. Everything after $100,000 is letting the engine run. And the worst thing you can do is cut the engine's fuel by reducing contributions or increasing spending. Here's the math. If you stop contributing at $100,000 and just let it grow at 8%, in 20 years you'd have about $466,000. Not bad. But if you keep contributing $580 a month, in 20 years you'd have about $807,000. The difference, $341,000 it was Cebu, is the cost of stopping, of thinking you're done, of taking your foot off the gas at the exact moment the engine was hitting its stride. Don't stop. The dams are gone. The river is flowing. The reservoir is filling faster than it ever has. This is not the moment to relax. This is the moment to accelerate. That's not sacrifice. That's momentum. And momentum is the most valuable thing in wealth building once you have it. So here's what I want you to take from this. The average American doesn't reach $100,000 because of 5 invisible dams. The payment lifestyle, the savings account plateau, lifestyle inflation, financial complexity avoidance, and the identity ceiling. Not income, not intelligence, not discipline, dams. Structural barriers that divert wealth before it can accumulate. You now know where every dam is, you know what it costs, and you know how to remove it. Not through heroic effort, and through structural change. Cancel the payment, move the money to investments, freeze the lifestyle, simplify the system, and start believing the number belongs to you. Because the only difference between the average American and the one who crosses $100,000 is that the second person removed the dams. The river was always strong enough. It just needed a clear path. Build the path, and let the river do what rivers do.